Hi everyone, I'm Anna Finch from Finch Press and welcome back to my channel. So this is the creating complex characters video that I mentioned in a previous video that I was supposed to have out earlier this week, which I didn't. I basically was swamped by reports. Anyway, so I'm going to end up splitting this into multiple parts because last time I tried to record it, I went on a tangent and it went for too long. So I'll go into detail about specific aspects of complex characters and maybe make some suggestions that you could use in your writing. Just keep it in mind that this is what I think makes a complex character and things that could make really good characters. It's just my interpretation of it. So if you think this stuff doesn't work for you, that's fine. Something else might be more interesting, more engaging for you. Anyway, so when we are looking at complex characters, we're looking at basically a strong character. The better characters are complex because we interact with them more. We react and engage with them more than we would with a static character. So when I was taught creative writing in school, we were told about dynamic, static, flat, and round characters. So static characters were those who didn't change, they didn't progress. They were the same at the beginning and they're the same at the end. So there are some stories where you have a static character, and the story can be great because the character is interesting, but they don't change. Normally, the more engaging characters change in some way from beginning to end. But sometimes you have a character that starts off on something, they go on a journey, but they remain the same. They're impacted by whatever journey they did, but they still are the same person. They haven't changed in a massive way. You got dynamic characters. So these are characters that change often. So they change throughout. They're active participants in their own story and they're changing, they're driving the change rather than just going along for the ride. Round characters are ones that are well developed, engaging, interesting, and then you have flat characters. So these are one-dimensional. They may have a personality trait. They might have one or two personality traits, but usually they're very, very dull. I don't mean to offend anyone, but think Bella from Twilight. She is a very flat character. She doesn't really change as a person. There's like one or two personality traits, but these don't make her interesting. She's very passive in the story. She doesn't get interesting as a character until is it Breaking Dawn, the last one? Breaking Dawn. She doesn't get interesting until the last book when she becomes a vampire. Then she changes. She becomes more assertive. She starts to change. But otherwise, she's just a passive victim a lot of the time of the things that happen around her. So Breaking Dawn, I think, is the strongest of the books when it comes to her development as a character. She changes. She has something. She knows what she wants, and she's fighting to keep it. And she's even going against Edward, who doesn't want her to keep the baby. So she becomes more interesting. She has a goal. She has something she wants, and then she will fight to keep, which makes her interesting. Whereas in Twilight, the desires and goals she has are very dull, so they're not great. So those are some types of characters. There are other types, or they might use other words for them, but generally speaking, they were the types of characters I was told about. I mean, you've also got archetypes or stereotypes. Stereotype characters are not great because they're very one-dimensional, they don't change, and generally they're very offensive in some cases. Generally, they're very offensive, or they're used in an offensive way. Now, you can have characters that are dynamic, that are round, okay, but they're not interesting or they're not overly complex. The more interesting characters generally have layers to them. There's layers upon layers that make them unique and interesting. So there's that. So you could have a person who's this tough as nails go-getter and who's always fighting for what they want. Okay, and that's like on the surface. That's what you see in their interactions. But then you have them on their own, or they're with other people, and they may be insecure, unsure. They may be self-conscious. Okay, they may have a scar or something that they feel uneasy about, or that they cover up because they're worried about what people will think of them when they see it. They might have these other things to them that make them more interesting. So you could have for example, a character could be a tough as nails cop who's a bit of a hard ass and is constantly pushing their team. It's like, nope, we have to do this. You are doing this until it's done. And they're really tough, right? And like when they're on the job, they're this really tough, strong, take no prisoners kind of attitude. Then you have them on their own. They might be in their office. They might be staring at a bottle of scotch, a half-empty bottle of scotch, fiddling with a glass. Okay, and just staring at the bottle. Okay, and they may have just finished dealing with a brutal murder, a victim they couldn't save, and you have them there staring at the bottle, fiddling with the glass. You don't have to have them say anything. If it's in third person, you don't have to say what they're thinking or anything. Just the action of them looking at a bottle of alcohol that's halfway done in their office after dealing with a crime and fiddling with a glass gives you a hint about what sort of person they are. Okay, it can tell you that they're emotional, that they feel for the victims, that they struggle to deal with the trauma that comes from seeing people being killed brutally, okay, or that they're haunted by something, maybe by a memory of another victim they couldn't save, okay, maybe they're filled with regret that if they had found that one clue, they could have caught this guy sooner. And it can give you a hint as to their mental state. Them looking at a bottle of alcohol that's halfway done in their office, the lights are off, everyone's gone home except for them, and they're fiddling with the glass as they stare at the bottle. Okay, that hints at them changing in a way that's not positive. So that could be hinting at they've either got alcohol issues, okay, or the potential for it to develop. And the development of alcohol issues and substance abuse can cause quite a bit of a negative change. That person could be dealing with substance abuse. They could have been an alcoholic. And maybe that one case is like making them think that they need to go back to the bottle. Right? And just small actions can hint at a more complex character. You don't have to say, oh, this person had a very bad background, they saw this, and this happen. You don't have to do that in order to make them complex. Even just hinting at something deeper. So hinting at an issue that the person has, or so you can hint at an issue a person has, their mental state through their actions. So that's one way of creating a complex character, or developing them a little bit more. Another way you could do that with, say, the same hard as nails, take no prisoners type of attitude character. You could have them sitting at home in the couch in front of the TV, just staring at nothing. They're not taking in the information on the TV, and they've got a gun in their lap. They've just come back from a case, and the person's fiddling with the gun, clicking the safety on and off. Them having the gun on their lap, in their hand, after dealing with the case, can hint at the mental state. Okay, I'm giving a lot of cops examples. Sorry, I've just watched Criminal Minds, and I've watched a lot of crime shows recently, so you're going to get a lot of criminal, and I'm teaching law, so you're getting a lot of criminal-based examples. So the So there's going to be layers to the characters. You can do that through the hinting, like I've mentioned before. You can do it by directly showing something to the reader. Maybe you can do it by directly showing something to a reader through the actions. So this is how you could hint. Telling, which is probably the worst way to try and show and reveal those layers. Now, it doesn't mean you shouldn't use telling. Sometimes you have to tell the reader rather than show them and get them to infer the information. But generally speaking, when you are telling someone, the better way of telling the audience of a particular trauma that a person had is not by them, it's not by directly talking about it in just like a general vague terms. It could be, the best way is through an action that happens. Maybe, for example, the person has a traumatic background, they witnessed murder as a child and they remember someone chopping up their parents with an axe. Okay, I'm going to get a bit graphic. So say they remember them seeing that as a kid, right? They remember seeing as a kid someone chopping their parents up with an axe, killing them. This person's now a cop, they're an adult. They've gone to therapy, they've dealt with the trauma. No one knows about this because they've moved to a different area. They're in a different city, a different state, maybe even a different country. And these aren't the people that the person grew up with, right? So this cop, they're not with the people, or this cop or teacher or whoever it is, may not have grown up with the people around them. So these people don't know this background, this thing that this person is dealing with or has dealt with. Say they're a cop and they're called to a scene of a crime that involves kids, that also involves parents who have been murdered with an axe. They've gone to therapy, they've dealt with the trauma, but maybe because they've had other issues, a lot of stress in their lives recently, and they've been trying to keep this secret of what happened to them. They're trying to keep that secret because they don't want people to look at them with pity. And they've started developing relationships with other people on their team. And they come to the crime scene, they see a pair of parents being butchered. They have been butchered with an axe. One kid severely injured and traumatized. The other is dead. The kid who's severely traumatized is still alive, happens to be a person same age as they were when they saw their parents brutally murdered. And this is like a tough as nails, take no prisoners type cop who's got this traumatic past. It may have been hinted throughout in the way they interact with victims, but it's not been outright stated or confirmed. And they see this. And normally they're very tough, right? An iron stomach. But they see this kid who looks like them, who has been injured by a weapon, the exact same similar weapon to what killed their parents. They see a pair of adults brutally murdered by a similar weapon. They see a house that looks like an ordinary house in the suburbs. It's an ordinary house. But they're not, instead, the moment they see them, they're not seeing the victims. They're seeing their own family. They're seeing their parents lying dead. They're seeing them injured and their blood. Okay? This cop just blanks out. Okay, because they're just they're trapped in a loop of remembering what has happened to them and they need to get away. And they may end up leaving the crime scene and just vomiting in a bush. Okay? A bit further away. Their friend is worried because they're like, oh, why this is a tough cop, right? They've been on the job for years. Why are they throwing up at this? This isn't as bad as the last crime scene, whatever it is. And they just sit together. They might sit, they might talk, and the person questions what happened and all that, and the person admits, I remembered what happened to my family or something, and they might admit that their family was murdered in a similar way, and It just brought all the memories back. And this may have been the first time they've dealt with this sort of crime, because they've done as much as they could to avoid similar crimes. Okay, that is probably the better way of showing it, because you're all telling about the past, because you've had them confront an issue or confront something that is deeply connected to their secret and be affected by that, maybe in a physical way and definitely in an emotional way, where they withdraw and they might admit to someone they're just starting to develop a relationship or a friendship with, this is what happened. And maybe, just maybe, this other person doesn't look at them with pity, doesn't treat them any differently afterwards. And maybe this person will start talking more and opening up after a result with other people. So in that way, in that sort of way of telling, you're showing the character's development. Maybe they're just starting to accept what happened to them. Maybe they're just finally, for the first time, opening up and starting to connect emotionally with other people rather than keeping them at a distance. Okay, you're telling what happened. You're telling the dramatic background. Okay, but it's through the relationship. You're showing it. You're telling this through a relationship that has been developed. You're telling this through an emotional connection that is being formed, rather than just saying, this is what happened to me and this is why I became a cop. You're showing that through their story how that something has traumatized them, something has affected them, you don't know what, until they finally react in a way that is out of character, okay, or a way that is odd, and then it's revealed, this is what's happened, rather than just saying straight up, this is what happened, this is why I became a cop. They're confronted by it, something similar, something that makes them remember, it's traumatizing and makes them remember that thing that happened in their past. And they reveal it to someone they're just starting to connect to. They don't want to care about anyone, but they couldn't help caring about this lovable, fun-loving character who goofs off, but is there and friendly, and they can't help but feel connected to the person, want to support them, and they just open up and reveal this stuff about themselves. So that's just one way of creating a complex character or revealing the complex nature of a character, because you've got the initial layer, which is what people see, so the outer mask. So you got the outer mask, and then you've got the inner personality. So the outer mask, what they see on the surface, the way they talk, the way they act, and then in the inner person is revealed in just little glimpses to try and get to reel the audience in. For example, my character in Voiceless, Mariah, she shows herself as this very tough, strong-willed, rebellious teenager. All teenagers are rebellious. But anyway, she shows herself as this tough, strong leader, in front of her father, in front of the king, in front of the people that she's trying to get the support of. And she shows herself as this tough, strong person. The reason for this is her outer mask. So when she's directly talking with people within her city, to other merfolk, she presents this strong-willed person. And then you see her with Mari. She's still acting strong and tough. There's little glimpses of softness and of kindness, but she still presents herself as this tough, strong person. She is more emotionally open with Michael than with her own family. But even then, she still presents herself as this strong, brave, powerful woman. And she's also very, very stubborn. So you get little glimpses of the personality, the trauma, the things that shaped her as a person. You get little glimpses or hints that slowly build up on each other until it's revealed towards the end. This is why she's acting in this way. This is why she feels a certain way. And there's like little glimpses and hints throughout the story, rather than saying at the start, this is the traumatic event that's happened to me. This is why I hate the king. No. You start by the journey. And I started with the journey of the character, how she changes and grows. But there's hints of the trauma. There's hints of some sort of trauma, of something that has changed her or pushed her in some way. There's like this hint of mystery as well. Now, so that's basically one thing that could make a complex character. One tip. I'll do one more tip in this video, and then I'll do another video later on in the day. So another thing that can make an interesting character is, or an interesting and complex character, is the goals and flaws. So a character has to have a goal, especially your main character, your protagonist, and even your antagonist. They need to have a goal, something they're striving towards. You've got an external goal, and then you've got an internal goal. The external is basically what drives the plot. Internal is what drives the character development. They may not always know their internal goal, okay, or they may be in denial of it, but it is a big part of, well, character development and the plot. Typically speaking, the internal goal is emotional or relationship based. Doesn't have to be, but typically it is, particularly in YA. So, for example, an external goal could be, let's go Hunger Games, right? An external goal in the Hunger Games, in the first Hunger Games, is to, in the beginning, is to survive. She's only just got one more Hunger Games left, and then she's out of the running. Her sister gets pulled in. Her goal, once she's volunteers, is to survive the Hunger Games and to become the champion. To survive the Hunger Games, that's her ultimate goal. To survive the Hunger Games. That's her ultimate external goal. Her internal goal is, well, a bit different. She wants to survive, but she also doesn't like the games. This is a terrible example. Okay, let's go like last. Like, if we look at the overall plot for Hunger Games, like from the first to the last, the external goal, the end game for her by the last book, is to take down the Capitol and to basically stop the Hunger Games. She doesn't want the Hunger Games to ever happen again. That's her ultimate goal. That's external. Internal is different, and it changes as she changes. In the first one, her internal goal is her personal desire. She wants to still be, it's the same with Peter. Peter actually says, I want to still be me. That he wants to show them that even if they've put him in the games, they don't own him. Which is a fairly powerful statement. And so Peter's internal goal at the time is to, external is, well, survive. It's plot. Internal is more, I don't want to change. I don't want to let them change me into something I'm not. And Katniss is a bit different, on the other hand. Her ultimate goal is to survive. She doesn't want to think about emotional attachments. Eventually her internal goal is, I don't want him to, she cares about Peter, and she doesn't want him to die either. She's pissed off at the Capitol. She wants the Capitol to care enough that they would save both of them. Sorry, I'm a bit rambly. It's like nearly midnight. Anyway, so you got that. So internal goal is more desires. What do they want? What do they? So external is more like what do they? Can be both want and need. But external goal is things like take down the evil government. In Voiceless, an external goal for Mariah would be freedom. Her overall goal is to change her society. Towards the end is freedom, but ultimately is her ultimate goal is to change her world, to change her society so that she can get that freedom. Her internal goal is a bit different. She's in denial. She wants, her internal goal is a desire for love. She wants love. She wants to be loved. She wants to know that she's loved. Her ultimate desire is love and to feel love and have that connection, an emotional connection, because she feels like she's been denied an emotional connection her entire life, which is kind of why she latches on so strongly to Michael. She wants love. She wants that support. Everyone wants to be loved, but she wants love, but she's also afraid of it because she's been taught all her life that love is weakness. That if you feel any sort of emotion, especially love, you are weak and therefore not worthy to rule. So it comes into direct conflict with the way she's brought up, which makes it interesting. Her desires is, well, love, obviously. That's a big part that she desires. But her main desire is to build a relationship that is not connected to the people. She wants someone to care about her for her, not that she's a princess or not what she can do for them, but she wants them to care about her as a person. So her internal desire is to be loved, particularly to be loved and accepted by someone. And she doesn't want to lose that love. So she clings to it. Especially at the end. Anyway, I'm trying not to give spoilers. Anyway. So the goals and desires the characters have, they need to be realistic for the character. So the moment you first put the character on the page, the way you're developing, the way they grow, is important. It has to be in character. So you can't have a goal come out of nowhere and go, what the hell? How is that even? Because sometimes you can have a goal, like an end goal, like, oh, take down the evil government. Okay, why does this person want that? Okay, especially if you've written a character that's rich and affluent, and well, powerful, right? And they go, I want to take down the evil government. That's their goal. Why? They're rich. They're powerful. How is this affecting them in a negative way? What would they get out of taking down the government? Okay, so if you're going to have a rich, affluent character and powerful character, politically speaking, in driving the plot, and you want them to take down an evil government, you have to have a reason why. Why would this rich, powerful person care about the poor little people who are the most affected? How are they affected by this? Okay, are they affected? Because if they're not, okay, what is motivating them now to change what is happening around them? Because if they're not personally affected, because if you look at people in general, people who are affected by something or are in directly impacted by something, they're the ones who are usually more likely to react. For example, people who have been bullied as a child are more likely to stand up, or rather, they're more likely to provide support, to sympathize with others who have been bullied. they're also more likely to participate in programs to stop bullying, right? Can people who have no experience with bullying support others? Yes, definitely. It's not stopping them. It's just more likely that people who have experienced bullying are more likely to sympathize with people who are currently in a situation. When people who deal with a traumatic situation, generally connect with people around them that are going through something similar, because they're people that can relate to them, they can understand what they're going through, and can help provide support that they desperately need. It's kind of why there's like support groups for people who have alcoholism or abuse drugs. There's groups specifically for people in those situations, so they can speak with others in the same situation and get support from others, people who will understand what they're struggling with every day. So you need to have a reason. You can't just have a goal out of nowhere and you have a rich, powerful character going, I'm going to change everything. Yay! You have to have a solid reason for them even changing that in the first place. Because typically speaking, if you look at society or political, like dictatorships and things, while, yes, in places like dictatorships, everyone is affected in some way by the dictatorship, by military, whatever dictatorship, those who are rich and powerful are the least affected. Usually they'll have some sort of benefits that the poor don't have. Maybe they have more protections, more rights, whatever it is. Now, can they still be harmed by it? Yes. But they are, generally speaking, the least affected. Those who are poor, okay, those who are in marginalized groups are the ones who are most likely to be affected in a severe way. So, for example, a society that trying to think of an example. I think there was a book, a Little Mermaid retelling, where beauty was a currency, and basically the mermaids would have to cut off certain bits, maybe a bit of their hair, finger, whatever. They would basically mutilate themselves in order to get food and to buy things. And once you've been completely mutilated, you are no longer beautiful, and therefore no one would treat with you. And if you're lucky, other people would give you stuff, but you wouldn't. So there's that sort of thing. So people have to be connected in some way. I'm a bit rambly, sorry. It's late. So you need to be, when you're writing your character and you've got layers, their goals, desires, their goal has to be realistic for the type of character. And if you're going to have a big goal where you have this person who is based on what the rules are from the world that you're creating, the least affected by it, you have to have a reason for them to even want to cause a change or to even want to interact. Maybe their best friend is from the poorer area and they've died as a result of this evil government. They're personally impacted. But you have to have some sort of reason why they're doing it. They have to have clear motivations from the beginning. Flaws are different. This is the last thing I'm talking about in this video. Flaws are a bit different. A flaw is something within a person's personality. It could be a personality trait. It could be something they do or act or say that is negative. It's not like absolutely horrible, but it's negative. Sorry, I'm just looking around. So, for example, my character Mariah, she's very, very stubborn. She's also very curious. Now, on their own, they're just personality traits: stubborn, curious, personality, right? But then you look at how those traits are actually applied. So the flaw is, how are these traits applied? So stubbornness can be a positive trait. It can also be a very negative trait. So my character is very, very stubborn. I think my mum said she was like me. Whoops. So she was very, very stubborn. to the point where she's got someone saying, this is wrong. You know that this thing is wrong. Why are you still arguing and making comments that side with the person doing this? You're obviously against this other thing. What's that? What's so different between that and this other thing? Can't you see that this other thing is wrong? Can't you accept that? No. It can't be wrong. It's and basically she just argues and argues. I think this is the first massive fight between Mariah and Michael. Basically, she's so stubborn that she will not admit she's wrong. In quite a bit of cases, she doesn't admit. She refuses to admit that she is wrong. Now, she does go away later and thinks about it, but she still refuses to lose that belief that she has in her society, in her culture, and the superiority of the technology and things like that, about how advanced they are compared to humans. She refuses to let that go until it's like she's confronted and by a situation where she's confronted by a situation and it's like, sorry, it's either you do something about this. So before it was all theoretical what was going to happen to her, but then she's confronted by this thing and it's like, it's not a theory anymore about what would happen to her. It's a reality. And it's like, she's directly confronted and directly affected. Before it was like, oh, theory, she's had no issues, and now she's being directly confronted by the issues and the things she was arguing with Michael about. So she's very stubborn, and she basically doesn't admit she's right quite a bit, not at least directly to Michael's face. I don't even think she apologized to Michael for that. So she doesn't admit what she's right. Now, her being stubborn in that she doesn't give up. She continues fighting for her rights, fighting for the rights of the people around her, and fighting to continue change, making change happen in her city. It's a positive in that way, right? Her fighting, never giving up, right? But it's a negative, it's a flaw, because sometimes the stubbornness goes too far and she gets stuck in her ways and she doesn't want to move and change. Same with curiosity. Curiosity can be a good thing. Curiosity can make people research things, look into things, find out more. They can learn more, right? It can be a positive in that way. Mariah's very curious. She's curious about the human world. She goes out there, she explores, she learns more. The curiosity in that way is a good thing. But curiosity can be a bad thing as well. Her curiosity can also be a flaw because her curiosity leads her to being reckless. She becomes reckless in her curiosity. She ignores the harm that can happen. She just wants to know. She wants to know this information and she wants to know it. And she doesn't really think about the actions or the consequences of those actions that she takes because of her curiosity. So a flaw can also be a positive trait and can be shown in a positive way. Okay. But generally speaking, the flaw will have more serious or negative connotations than positive. And generally, it will affect things in a more negative way. So that's it for this video. So I've explained complex characters, what makes them complex, layers. I've explained briefly goals and desires, and I've explained flaws as well. So that's it for this one. The next one, I will talk about emotionally damaged characters and how I create them. Because in my new novel, the one I'm currently writing, and I'm going to be finishing for NaNoWriMo Camp Nano this month coming, is both of my characters are emotionally damaged characters and they're complex. And I'll actually be talking about them and what makes them some really strong and also emotionally damaged characters in the next video. I should hopefully record that some point today, my time, and get it out. No promises. For those who are subscribed, I normally run a weekly writing sprint, weekly live writing sprint. I've actually had to cancel the one for this Sunday, the 28th of March. This is Australian time. Okay. I think it's currently, it's like a couple of minutes until the until the 28th of March. I basically had to cancel it because I was originally meant to go fishing today, earlier this morning, but my fishing trip was cancelled because of rough weather, and it was rescheduled for tomorrow. I actually have to leave in about 4 hours to go to the fishing place, because the place I'm going fishing is 2 hours away. No, yeah, about 2 hours, 2 hours and a half away from where I live. So it's a long drive, and I've got to wake up early to get there. And so the fishing trip, by the time it finishes, I will actually be driving on the way home. And by the time I get home, it's actually going to be too late to run a live writing sprint or to do a live stream, because as most of my subscribers are in the US and Canada, and by the time I get home, most of them will be asleep, and it'll actually be well after midnight in the US Canada time. So I can't run it this week. So I've changed it to next Sunday. I'll most likely do a live writing sprint this Friday coming Australian time, so Good Friday, because I start my school holidays. I'm going to probably run during the school holidays, so for the first 2-ish weeks of NaNoWriMo, Camp Nano, I'm probably going to run 2 or 3 live streams a week, because I'm going to be writing a lot more in that time period. Yeah, so there's no live stream this week because of my fishing trip being changed. Also, the sale for Voiceless, the 99-cent sale in the US and Canada, and the other sales that are running in other countries and other currencies, ends in a couple of days. It ends on the 31st of March. Now, you need to be aware that with Google Play, so Google Play, Apple, Nook, and Kobo, the actual, it's all set up automatically. So it will automatically end on the 31st. Now, Google Play will end on my time zone. So it'll be the 31st of March in my time zone. 31st of March, 11:59 p.m. Australian time. So you need to be aware of that if you use Google Play. Apple, Nook, and Kobo, because they're done either directly, will probably go through American Canadian time. So it'll be that time. Amazon, I have to change it manually, so I'll have to change it manually the next day. I'll change it in the US time, so I'll make sure that I haven't entered it early. So the sale ends 31st of March, and it's 99 cents, and I am probably never going to go this low again for my sales. If you have purchased a copy of my book, please, leaving a review would really, really help. It can help bring attention to my book. It can also help support independent authors like me. So leaving reviews are really helpful. Please be honest in your reviews. I do read most of them, or occasionally, or at least look at them. So anything try and keep it. If you leave, anyway, that's pretty much it. I better go to sleep, actually. So I'll hopefully record the other part and release it later today for emotionally damaged characters, and I'll see if I can do some more reviews, but no promises. All right, see ya. Bye.